All right, cool. So thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. My name is Quincy Harper. I'm retired Air Force, and this is our very first segment for Veteran SA Magazine. We are honored tonight to have my good friend. I affectionately refer to him as OG, Mr. Richard Delgado Jr. So, Richard, we thank you, my friend. Thank you for showing up, moving some things around to come out and talk.
Absolutely. When you call, there's few people that when I see a number across my phone, I pick it up, and you're one of them. Just what you do for us and for others is amazing. So I wouldn't have missed this.
Well, likewise, the sentiments are likewise. So we're gonna jump right in, man, because I'm excited to hear from you, to learn from you. I've been following you and watching you since my USO days, back at the Pathfinder program with Mr. Chuck Bunch out there, right?
Go, yeah.
You went from United States Marine Corps Airfield Ops to Director of Military Affairs, Texas A&M, San Antonio, Adjunct Faculty Instructor to Boeing Global Engagement, right? Very highly educated, done some cool things in the city for our military community. But I want to hear from you. Like, what has your experience been like transitioning out?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. When I was transitioning out, it was at the time when the Marine Corps didn't want any, for lack of better words, broken Marines. Now it's different because a lot of us really spoke up and said, hey, we're not quite done yet.
Yeah.
So that's why I really got engaged in the veteran community, because I felt that my service wasn't done. And then I know what I should have gotten and how I should have been transitioned out. Look, let's be honest. We spend a lot of money on training us and equipping us where we're in, but we don't do that same sentiment when we're transitioning out.
Yeah.
Once you say, hey, I'm getting out, then you're kind of like the step kid that just is off to the side. Yeah, they care about you, but they'll give you enough to eat, but not enough to survive, right? So that's why I really got involved, because I didn't want my brothers and sisters that followed me to go through the same path. So I wanted to make it as smooth as possible within reason. So I got to say that, sometimes we as veterans get out and we think that we're owed something.
Yeah.
And we're not. We're not. We for the most of us, especially, the younger generation, we did it out of our own accord to sign that piece of paper, where our Vietnam brothers and sisters did not get that opportunity. So do we owe them? Yes. Our newer generations, nothing is owed. We did it because we wanted to.
You signed up, you raised your right hand, you swore in. I 100% agree, and I get it. What duty station were you at when you transitioned out?
So I was here because they sent me here for treatment. And being a Marine at Fort Sam is, while we're a joint base, there's I'm not Air Force, I'm not Army.
You're not Air Force.
So that's what it was. And remember, I wasn't attached to a unit per se, the Wounded Warrior Battalion, but it was different. It wasn't what it is today. Remember, we were still transitioning as a Department of Defense on what this looks like, because we hadn't had a conflict like Iraq. So that was a lot. And I don't blame nobody. I get asked all the time, are you mad at the Marine Corps? Are you mad at... No. Will you let your son join? Absolutely. I'll let my sons join. I'll let my daughter join if that's what she wants. So to me, there's no ill will. I just wanted to make it better for those that follow.
And I love that, because everything that you've done, just kind of looking at your bio and your LinkedIn profile, speaks directly to wanting to make things better within our military community, right? And you just mentioned you let your kid, son or daughter, serve. So that's very commendable. So as you were transitioning out, was there any type of plan of success for yourself?
No, because I didn't know I wanted to be a career Marine. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. And there was a lot of people in my ear, you should do this and you should do that. And, I was always one to go against. So most people don't know this, so I'll tell you. So a very close high school teacher told me I couldn't join the Marine Corps because I had a full ride scholarship to a university, an academic scholarship. One thing you don't tell me is I can't do something.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to prove you wrong. So I had some friends. I had a cousin that was already in the delayed entry program. The recruiter was always around. And I really just took hold of that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove some people wrong. My mom didn't like that answer. But at the end of the day, we choose our own path. And I live with that every day of how can I help other people create their own path? Because when I got out, I didn't have that network
Yeah.
that I have now. Like I know I can lean on people like yourself, right?
Yeah.
If there's a bind, and we've gone through situations here recently of what that looks like.
Yep.
But to me, that's the important part. And what I tell folks all the time is it's never about me. I may be the person speaking, I may be the person up there, but I'll go take out the trash, and I'd rather be behind the scenes than in front. So yeah.
And that's one thing I've noticed about you. You're never that one to, hey, I got to be out front.
Yeah.
You're always in the background, and you're like the puppet master, right? You're pointing people into the direction to get to success, right? And you said something that was key, your network. How do you build a successful network as you're transitioning out of the military?
Look, the biggest thing is don't be afraid to ask for help. Especially us men, we don't know how to ask for help. We figure, we'll go to the gym all day long. But if there's something that is in our heart that we just don't want to talk about. I tell folks all the time, hey, I love you, especially my male, and you're shaking your head, because to me, that's what's valuable is to show affection.
Love.
Absolutely, the love for one another, because at the end of the day, that's how you really build that network that you can rely on. So there's two different networks that I believe is one, those that are, you're just around these folks.
Okay.
Can you pick up the phone in the middle of the night and call? They may pick up the phone. But that true network that uplifts you when you're going through things, keeps you positive and grounded, that's really a network. Those are the people that, just like when we serve, just like when we wear the uniform, those are the people you run into battle with. So network is a real cautious word that I tell people, like, hey, really value your network. Be kind, be open and honest. That to me, that's a network, not, those that you casually meet at a networking function that automatically you connect with on LinkedIn. Hey, just because you have a connection on social media doesn't mean you're actually connected. And to me, that's the difference when it comes to network.
And I think that's very true. That's a very valid point. As we're, kind of traversing throughout our day, transitioning out, right? In the Marine Corps, in the Air Force, in any branch of service, you have those battle buddies or those Marines or airmen who you're connected to on a daily basis.
Yep.
Inside the uniform, we know exactly who you are, right? Walking down the street, going into the BX, whatever that looks like. Outside the uniform, you're just another gentleman with a Simplify, button down on, right? How has that played a part in your transition as people? How do people view you at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, what I hope they view me is a selfless and more of a servant leader.
Yeah.
Because again, it's never about me. My job and focus, because I came so close to death, is I value every minute and every moment. And I want to live life to the fullest each and every day. And my kids come first. So, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm a great dad, I'm a great husband, but I'm also a great community person. And as you see, I didn't say veteran in any one of those, because a veteran is not who I am. It was a chapter in my life, but it doesn't dictate who I am. And that's the difference that I think some veterans need to remember is, what do you want to be remembered as and by? Is it just a title, or is it who you are as a person? So to me, the dash in between on my headstone is what I want people to remember me, not when I was born or when I died, the day that I died. I want that dash to be more prominent, because that's what I want people to remember me by.
Nice. Very well said. Legacy.
Absolutely.
That is your legacy, right? And you've left a trail of legacy nuggets, from being a community builder to, working over at Team Rubicon. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like, working at Team Rubicon?
Yeah. So again, I've had some opportunities. I put myself in the right spots, and I don't know how to say no. So when Team Rubicon reached out, at the time, Clay Hunt, good friend of mine, unfortunately, he passed away after he filmed the commercial about suicide. Yeah. Clay was something different. Clay was a movement. And to me, when, just like when you called, right? And when he calls, you pick up the phone and he's like, hey, we're really trying to do some more. Will you be the regional director? And I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. I'm not going to say no. And that really helped thrive what Rubicon is and what it is today, right? Because that's another opportunity, another organization to continue to serve. So there's some key organizations that I've helped establish here in San Antonio. The Mission Continues is another one. TMF, Travis Manning Foundation, which is close and near and dear to my heart. Because at every point, I could tell you a story of where I thought I wasn't adequate or where I needed that extra support, that these organizations help uplift me and keep me charged and grounded. And that's the person that you see before you.
Couple of things there: strategy and imposter syndrome, right? You're very strategic on how you move, which I commend you. But then the imposter syndrome, right? You're a warrior. You've been off and you've done some great things in the military. You've been able to get your education. You've been able to do some very, very cool things, but you do it and you move with strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never by chance. I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. I may not like that reason. I may not agree with the reason at the time, but the light bulb will go off. I'm very faithful. And I think that's what makes me a little bit different. I wouldn't say special, just different, that I move with purpose. And to me, that's what's key is we got to find what our purpose is. And to me, it's giving back and helping others. It's never about me.
Yeah, I can remember a conversation you and I had about a certain organization, and I mentioned I'm going to give it a year, right? And I gave that organization a year, but when I woke up, it didn't speak to me as far as staying on with that organization, right? I think we share that in common as well. It's hard to say no, especially in our military community, but we also give it that. We give it that try and say, hey, I did it, put my stamp on it, but it's just not for me to move on, right? How hard is that?
It's difficult, especially if you don't have that purpose, if you don't know where you're ultimately going to be. Look, I never thought I'd be working for the largest aerospace company in the globe. Never. But when they called, you pick up the phone. Was it hard leaving A&M San Antonio? Absolutely. Do I miss students and being on campus? Every day. But I know the impact of where I am now is much larger than I was on campus. And to me, that is what makes it different. And with veterans as a whole, we need to reframe where we are in life, right? And again, we need to look at it as a chapter. No matter what we do and how we do it, it's who we are as people.
Yeah.
And remove the title, just people. And if you're not waking up enjoying what you're doing and you're not thriving at work, then you really got to reevaluate where you are and why you're doing it. Some people stay there because of the money. Some people stay there for the benefits. Yeah, I'm not taking that away from anybody. There's certain times in life you just gotta suck it up, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's so many opportunities out there. If you just avail yourself to open your aperture just a little bit more, there could be an opportunity there. And that goes back to your network. If you let those around you know that, hey, this is really not sitting well with me, you'll be surprised of the network and what the opportunities are out there, but they never thought it was possible because they thought you were good.
Being an adjunct faculty instructor, right, at Texas A&M San Antonio, right? What was the day-to-day like? How do you move? How do you shake? What did you do there?
Yeah, so incoming freshmen, I taught incoming freshmen how to be great students.
Okay.
And to me, that's rewarding because you really set them up with a good foundation. Yeah, were there grades? Absolutely. But for me, it was bringing in speakers, allowing them to be comfortable in their own skin, and being able to ask for help. Look, college is a scary place. University life, especially as an incoming freshman, small campus, there's those things that you're away from home. And you don't have that support network built the way you were comfortable. So again, it allowed me to frame some of these young minds in hey, this is what needs to happen.
It sounds a lot like basic training.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Just no yelling and no throwing things.
No yelling and no throwing things. Did you find a lot of the skill sets and experiences that you learned in the Marine Corps transition well over into the collegiate atmosphere?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the structure and order and following a lesson plan to me is just like, an MCI. So No different. No, I didn't have an issue. There was some colleagues of mine that like, how do you deal with these freshmen? I was like, you treat them like you would yourself. Don't treat them like children.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And I got some rave reviews on them from my students that I'll never forget. Some of the feedback. I had parents call me and say, "Hey, you really got my son or daughter through a tough time." Yeah. And to me, at the end of the day, as a parent myself, I want that same thing for my kid, is them to be able to trust an adult outside of our home. So that's key.
That's a good point. Did you ever have to go knife hand on anybody?
Oh, some of them got knife hands. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Love it. Man, you've had like I said, you've had a great career. Talk about some of the pain points you experienced as you pivoted into some of these organizations, whether that was a nonprofit or for profit.
I would say, how do I frame this without just upsetting some folks?
Yeah. We definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think every organization is different, right? And how they do things may not resonate with everybody. And to me, leadership is key. Whether you're the CEO or if you're a program manager, to me, it should be the same drive.
Yeah.
And some organizations that I've been a part of didn't have that drive. While they said it was all about improving veterans' lives, when you joined the organization, it was really just about a whole lot of work.
Yeah.
And they wanted you to be a number so they can continue the grant.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the coin, there's some great organizations out there that you're not a number, you're actually a person. You get invited to some pretty cool opportunities, and you really get to give back to your community. And at the end of the day, if you look at all my track record, it's really been veterans giving back, and education. I mean, that's really my body of work, and I don't shy away from that one bit.
No, and again, that's why I figured and I thought that you should be the first person to sit in with us, right? Because of your body of work. Is corporate for everybody? And when I say everybody, the military community, the transitioning military.
No, I'll be 100% honest. No. But with that, no, we also have to think about and look in the mirror and see what's best for us. Mm-hmm. Look, we're both part of two great organizations that really care and value for veterans. Where I work here in San Antonio, 49% are veterans. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't tell walking through the shop floor because they're focused on what their job is. There's some companies out there that I can name that I won't, that are there for numbers.
Check the innocent.
Exactly. They want to do it for the limelight.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes aren't taking care of their veterans, or their family members or their spouses. When I say veterans, I include the whole family. But it's to each one's own, right? Just like in the military, right? You knew going through basic who was going to make it, who wasn't, who was going to thrive. Yeah. Same thing when you get to your units, right? Those that are just barely making it. Those that are always in trouble. Yeah. So they, veterans really got to find what they want and be passionate. That goes back to what I said earlier, right? Is if you're not enjoying what you're doing every day, then you need to make a change. And that doesn't mean a career change. That just means your lens of how you're viewing things. Yeah. And it's as simple as waking up and if you're faithful praying or just centering yourself before you get into work. And then if something happens at work, don't hold on to it. Life's too short to hold on to anything. I'll be honest. I don't hold grudges. I don't hold, if you did me wrong, I'll still shake your hand. I'll still tell you hello, because life's too short to hold on to anything nowadays. Because you never know. I could walk outside and the man upstairs may be like, okay, I kept you here long enough. You need to come on home.
It's time to go.
So to me, that's key.
Good point. When you think of corporate, I talk to a lot of transitioning military members who want to make that pivot because they're looking to make X amount of dollars, right? And I probably have this conversation 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah. What should our transitioning military members value first and foremost?
So I would say the culture first and foremost, because you could go home and cash that check every day, but if you're unhappy, how long are you going to stay there?
Yeah.
How long are you going to do the work that you're trusted to do.
Yeah.
And that's where we get in trouble as veterans, right? Because it goes back to, are we owed something? And,
Yeah.
and let's be honest, I have those same conversations too. Well, I'm a high ranking, whatever,
Yeah.
either on the enlisted or the officer side, and this is what I was getting paid. I was like, yeah, but it's just like starting a new job.
Yeah.
Don't expect to come into the C-suite when the C-suite has execs in there for 20 plus years. Come in at it and work your butt off. I'm not saying come in lower level, but come in and show you who you're worth.
Yeah.
And believe me, the paycheck will come. But to me, we talk about underemployment, but we don't talk about those that are reaching that high echelon to get in there. And what's sad is we don't track that. We track underemployment and unemployment, but we don't track those that are not successful when they do for luck.
Yeah.
Or because they know somebody, that network, getting into these jobs. You and we could just think about some people right now that
we can
that did that, but they weren't happy and they didn't stay very long. So to me, it's really the culture should be first and foremost of where you're gonna thrive, not survive. Where you're gonna thrive, because you got to look at it the same way as if when you wanted to get promoted, all that extra work that you did to get promoted, it should be that same thing every day when you get to the corporate world, especially in corporate America, because at a moment's notice, especially in the environment that we are today, things could flip really, really quick.
Talk a little bit about nonprofits. What do you see in that space? I've worked at I worked at 2 nonprofits actually, and I know you've been in that space as well.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit of your insight or perspective on nonprofits that help the military community?
Look, it's a dog-eat-dog world in nonprofits. I think here lately you're seeing more nonprofits gather together, and I've been screaming for that for years. I know you have too. Hey, just do some collaboration. Every vet is not your vet; it's everybody's vet, and I think the mentality, especially here in San Antonio, with over 400 nonprofits headquartered here in San Antonio around the military community. We don't need another one. We need one that is going to streamline things. Nonprofits are great, but you also got to follow the money, and unfortunately, that's what they have to do, especially in today's economy. Is they're fighting for those same dollars, and let's be honest and frank, with some major corporations moving out of San Antonio and it is becoming extremely tough to get those dollars in order to create those quality programs and projects that they're doing. So, and I think it's only going to get worse in the next few years for nonprofits.
Collaborate if you can, but create that win-win for both sides of the coin.
100%.
How important are leadership programs? I know we share that as well. The George Bush Veteran Leadership Program alum. How important are those programs?
Look, they're very important in my opinion because they challenge us to do more. They challenge us to look within ourselves. When I think about some of the ones from the City South Chamber to LSA to George W. Bush, to me, each one had a purpose in my life, and really it helped me frame things a little bit different. So again, to me, don't just apply because you want that notch. Be ready and prepared to give it your all. And it expands your network, but it also should challenge you in the way you're thinking. So the Bush Institute did a great job, in my opinion, and continued to do a great job. It's not the easiest one to get into. I'll be honest. I was that imposter syndrome that we talked about earlier. That is one room that I continue. Look, I got chills because I still am in awe of my fellow classmates and our alum. And being in that community. And that network, I mean, I could tell you honestly, today I got like 4 or 5 messages just from our group. Like, wow, that network, it's, from birthdays to babies to jobs, it really is alive and well. And I know if I need something, I can lean on them. So I think it's important. Again, you got to find the right time to apply. Don't just apply just to apply, because when you get told no, it hurts that much more. And use your network. So, I'm not one that, as we talked about, wanted to do a bunch of this, but I was
Yeah.
strong armed
Yeah.
to apply, and it was the greatest strong arm that I'd live with because of the opportunity to be an alum, and to learn from the institute, and to sit in a room with President Bush. I give them a hard time because I have pictures of my transition with him, and affectionately G Dubs, and they're like,
Yeah.
Richie, do not call the president that. And I was like, but just one time, he knows,
He knows.
he knows. But yeah, I mean, to be in the room with him and his wife, and just it something I'll live with for forever.
Pretty cool story. When it was time for the dinner, I walked into the estate room to sit down, and I'm looking for my table, and he was like, "Hey, Q man, you're sitting right here by me." I was like, "Wow," he just called me Q man,
Yeah.
right? So awesome time. I learned a lot, but you talked a little bit about imposter syndrome. I think in my transition, I didn't get over that imposter syndrome until going there.
Yeah.
Being there taught me that I'm in the right space, I'm in the right room, and I'm working within my gifts and talents to do what I'm called to do.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's important. And there's no skill builder. There's no magic test that tells you what you should be doing post-military.
Yeah.
I think you just have to step into it. You try everything. You pick up the phone. You talk to everyone, and you express what you're looking to do until it just finds you.
Yeah.
Right. Did you experience any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I live it each and every day when I'm asked to sit on a committee or something.
Yeah.
I got a letter from a huge foundation here in San Antonio, that they want me as a board member.
Nice.
I mean, the who's who of San Antonio, and then you have little me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and their ED called me, and they're like, because I was apprehensive. I was like, "Hey, are you sure?" And it's like, "You really undervalue who you are in this city." And to me, to hear those words from I'm very close to the mayor.
Yeah.
And he wrote me a letter of recommendation, and again, to have that type of network where I could pick up the phone and call the mayor of a huge city and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. Can you help me out?" But at times, even today, I could tell you, I'll look in the mirror and be like, "Am I where I'm supposed to be? Am I?"
Me.
Yeah, 100%. Why me? But as that ED told me, I and just like you said, we gotta, and I say this all the time to others, that I need to start living it. Hey, you live in the moment.
Yeah.
You are there for a reason, and there's a reason that you're being afforded these opportunities. Don't be afraid to take them. I tell veterans that all the time, and yet here I am now openly talking about it,
Yeah.
right? Of, hey, I live that every day in and day out with some of the crowds that I get to mix and mingle with, where I could be in a room and somebody will come up and be like, "I can't believe they came up to you." And I've been more comfortable of not going to everybody, because I'm a networker. I'll go up. I don't care. I'll go up to the person serving, and cleaning up, because to me, they're important too.
Yeah.
So those are the things. So yes, do I live it each and every day? Yeah, absolutely. Did the Bush Institute help me be more comfortable of where I am in that place? Absolutely. But I think because of the city that we are in, and there's some movers and shakers. I got to speak at the American Legion, and I had a congressman really highlight my story beyond my bio, and I was,
Wow.
To me, those are the circles that I never thought I'd have a sitting congressman talk about me in that way. So
How cool is that,
Yeah.
man? How cool is that? So, you have your master's of JD in business law and compliance.
Yeah.
How tough was that?
It was tough. And late breaking news, I'm gonna go get my doctorate. It's time that I go get my doctorate.
Bravo.
So in the final stages, hopefully starting the fall, I think it's time that I have a backup plan, and I think higher ed is where my sweet spot is.
Okay.
Later on, not going anywhere, not leaving Boeing. So when this is aired, not going nowhere.
No, that's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying. Yep.
Not promoting that.
Yeah. But it is tough. Tough navigating a family, a wife, and then everything else I do in the city, along with my job. That's very demanding. People just see the galas and things that we get to go to, and it's far beyond that. And I think if you've noticed, people have noticed, like, well, you're not posting as much. It's like, well, I don't want people to get the wrong impression that it's all, a party.
Yeah.
It is not about that, because when I go to these events, it's about networking. It's about ensuring that what we're doing as a company is jiving with other, in the space, and meeting nonprofits that I may not have an opportunity to meet in a large gathering. So it's much more than parties and galas.
And our founder, Johnny Valdez, the reason he founded this platform, right, through Combat 22, is to make sure that you're socially and mentally responsible and staying fit as veterans, right? How important is your mental health in all of what you do?
Yeah. So Johnny's doing it right, in my opinion. Again, this goes back to who we are, and now I'm unfortunately going to go two different genders. So us as men, I said it earlier, don't know how to express love, and don't know how to express issues and problems. We're real quick to push it down and just bury it.
Mm-hmm.
Where our female veterans are a little bit more vocal, handle it, in my opinion, a little bit better. Not to say any gender handles it better or worse than the other, but to me, mental health is very important, and I'm glad we're finally starting to talk about it. We don't even have numbers of how many veterans unfortunately died by suicide during COVID. Representative Lopez just passed a bill that the state of Texas is actually going to start counting veterans. It's now sitting on the governor's desk for signature, because we don't have that data. We don't know how many people, even morgues and other things, they're not looking at that. And the data is not out there. So I think we're going to see some alarming numbers coming out once the governor signs this bill. Mm-hmm. And Texas will lead the way on how we're actually counting and what this looks like. Not so much from, hey, feel bad for the state of Texas on how many veterans we're losing, mm-hmm. but it allows us to shift some money. The Texas Veterans Commission, I'm honored to sit on the only advisory committee for them, gave out $46.2 million.
Wow.
And I say that because money is there. Now it's finding the programs, and the hardest part is being able to ask for help.
Yeah.
We as veterans, we're not trained to do that.
We don't do that, right?
And regardless of gender, we just don't do that. And I think that is where we need some education. Things like this, what Johnny's doing is will really allow folks to just listen in for a minute and see if your story resonates. I tell folks all the time, tell your story when you're ready.
Yeah.
Don't be forced, because then you're going to go down a dark hole. Yeah. Let it come naturally. You will know when it's your time to tell your story, but it's what you want to be remembered for and how that matter.
Excellent point, right? It took me probably 3 or 4 years after I retired to feel comfortable sharing my experiences from the military. My wife is still serving. So, in support of her, I have to give her that time and attention as well. But I think that's important, right? Because as veterans, we don't. As military members, we don't just openly share. And there's a lot of good people and programs that are out here around us that want to help us, but we have to be open to be vulnerable, right? And the military doesn't teach us or breed us to be vulnerable.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, they teach us to go fight in a dark place.
Yeah.
And just keep pushing forward. What I tell folks all the time is like, hey, take that training with you. And then remember, we were issued a moonbeam, a flashlight, whatever you want to call it now, right? And if you shine that light to your left and right, I guarantee you there was somebody with an open arm to your left and right, willing and ready to grab your hand and help walk you to wherever you're going.
Yeah.
But we're so focused on, with blinders on, that, hey, nobody could help me. Nobody knows what I'm going through. And I think that's what our detriment is not being able to ask for help. And we automatically think that it has to be another veteran, and it is not.
Yeah.
Let's be honest and frank here. There's some amazing people out there that may have never put on a uniform, but I can tell you they're more passionate and they care more for us than our own brothers and sisters in certain circumstances.
Hands down. I've met a lot of great mentors post-military that fit that bill.
Yeah.
So as we get ready to wrap, What's next for Richard?
Oh, I don't know. My doctorate, as I mentioned, is up next. Look, at the end of the day, I'm one for opportunities, depending on what opportunity presents itself. To me, at the end of the day, it's giving back, and it's ensuring that I am leaving a better community for my kids and their kids than I have. So one thing I tell veterans all the time is get involved.
Yeah.
Get involved in boards and commission. Find the leadership program that you have a draw to. Find that nonprofit, and look, at the end of the day, volunteer time. But if you could $1 here or there, hey, that pays dividends.
Yeah.
But if you do one of those 3 things, 4 things, I guarantee you'll thrive. And to me, I don't know what's next because I'm not that. While I'm strategic in how I move, I don't pigeonhole myself either. I want to be able to be agile and move and flow, and depending on what is up, who's to say you don't run for a higher elected office in the future?
Would love to see it, my friend. Would love to see it. You got my vote. Can you leave the viewers with the best piece of advice that someone gave you? And that's regardless if it was a military lead or if it was someone out in the civilian community.
Be present. While that's a brief statement, being present in the moment. If you're at a meeting, if you just focus in and blur everything else out and you be in the moment, make that eye contact, it'll pay you dividends in the end. To me, I live that and I breathe that because I don't want anybody to think I'm overlooking them or looking to the side trying to find someone else.
Yeah.
To me, that interaction, if somebody comes up to me, I want to give them that because at the end of the day, that could save somebody's life. So if you're present in the moment, you don't know the impact that you're making on that individual and their family or that network around them because you're present. So to me, while it's very short and sweet, to me, it pays dividends, and it's, I'm sure, made somebody smile. And I know it maybe saved a life just by being present.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here from Richard Delgado Jr. We're creating this veteran essay magazine, lifestyle magazine, right? So it's not just about going out, hanging out, partying, doing this or doing that. We're being strategic because of folks like Mr. Richard Delgado Jr. here. Thanks to Johnny Valdez and Veteran Essay Magazine for creating this platform. Thanks to Chatterbox. Thanks to my beard guy, Dave at New You. And go out and support a veteran endeavor, a military spouse endeavor or business, right? Again, this is our very first episode. Thank you all for showing up. Please tune in and hit that subscribe button.